is Ancestry Anne, or Ann Mitchell, and we're here to do our live stream presentation today, which is called CYA. If you don't know what that means, I'll let you look it up on Urban Dictionary. Don't get caught with your hands in the genealogy cookie jar. I think one of the most interesting things that keeps coming up on our message boards and a lot of other places is, don't take my stuff. I don't want anybody to use my stuff. And sometimes they really have a point. Because just because it's out there on the internet doesn't mean that you can just take it. I know, that just seems sort of wrong, doesn't it? Wouldn't it be nice if we could just take whatever we wanted? But you don't walk into a grocery store, see a display of a lot of food or fruit, and say, well, it's there. They must have meant for me to take it. Well, no, it doesn't quite work like that. So we're going to walk through some of the do's and don'ts about what you can use and what you can't use. All right, I'm assuming everyone can hear me. Forgot to check that before I went too much further. Somebody will respond here in a minute. I am watching your comments over in the little Twitter, so let me know if something weird starts happening. And as always, I will post a link at the end of this and tell you where you can get a copy of this presentation. But it's on the internet, so I can do what I want with it, right? I mean, I think that is a really common misperception in this day and age, is if it's published on the internet, I can do whatever I want. Not so fast. I'm going to put up a quote here. It's from Judy Russell. She has a law degree, and she's a CG, which stands for Certified Genealogist. So she's got it covered in both areas for it. I've also got down here at the bottom the source for this quote that I'm going to put out here. And I suggest that if you're at all interested in this, you go and you read this post, which I do not have all of it here, and a lot of other stuff she's written. She's great. She's just fun to read. The fact is, and this is just a direct quote, the fact is there's a persistent myth out there that if it's on the internet, it isn't copyrighted, it isn't protected, and you're free to use it however you like. Worse, there's a persistent attitude out there that people shouldn't post anything on the internet if they don't want it copied. Horse manure. In reality, most of what is out there on the internet is copyrighted. It is protected, and you can be sued if you use it without permission. All right, now you may be asking yourself, all right, Ann, you just copied directly from Judy's post, and you put it here in your presentation. There is something called fair use. And I wanted to take, because she said it so well and so much better and with so much more authority than I possibly could, because I'm not a lawyer. I took the quote from her article. I made it very clear it was a quote, and I attributed it correctly. This is called fair use, and there's nothing wrong with that. As long as you attribute things and you make it clear that you're quoting, you're covered. You're fine. It's not a problem. You can't quote, I mean, there's probably, 500 words in her article. I can't put all of them in here and just quote them verbatim, but I can take bits and pieces out as I try and make my point in this presentation. And I think what she says here is really, really important. When you publish something on the internet, it's yours. It is covered by copyright. It doesn't matter if you put little watermarks on it or anything else. Now, when you publish your tree out on the internet, most of what you're publishing are facts. And facts themselves are not copyrightable, and we're going to talk about that in a second. And you can attach information from other places to your tree, which is fine, because you're just putting links to where that information came from. That's also fine. We'll talk about that more as we go through here. Facts, you can use. You don't own facts. Your birth date is a fact. You don't own that. That is just something that is. You can't tell people, well, you can't under privacy laws, but let's go back to, say, one of my favorite ancestors, Reddy Cash. Really his name. I have his signature. I'm not making this up. He was born, and I believe it to be 1799 in Virginia. That's a fact. He died April 25th, 1886 in Lexington, Rockbridge, Virginia. That's a fact. Those facts themselves are not copyrightable because I haven't put it in there. Because I've published it in my tree doesn't mean I own those facts and no one else can publish them. But I do want to do a couple things with these facts. I can copy and publish that to my heart's content. You can pick that up and copy and publish it to your heart's content. But this is what I always suggest with any fact. Source it to give yourself great and to cover yourself as well. Tell people where that fact came from. If you're going to publish it, you should have an idea of where you came from. Did you just pull it out of thin air? Did you pull it from somebody else's tree? Now, when you merge in somebody else's tree to your tree, there'll be a source citation, I'm not showing it here, that shows where it came from. Awesome. Great. If I got it from a birth certificate, if I got it from a death certificate, if I got it from a tombstone, as long as I source it, I know where it came from. And I'm starting to cover myself. It's just facts. But I have this idea, well, I got it from somewhere else, I researched it. That's what it is. Stories, however, you cannot just copy and use to your heart's content. And I know where you guys are going to go, but you let me attach this. Hold on one second. We'll get there. All right, so let's say I write a charming story, because I only would write charming stories, right? About Reddy, using facts that I have. In 1799, Reddy Cash was born to Thomas and Jane Cameron Cash. He was their second child. They lived in a log cabin in Rockbridge, Virginia. All right. Actually, some of this is nonsense, but the idea is, so I start to write out this story, and I write hundreds and thousands of words, and I'm all happy. And I've published that. This is something I've created. All right? This is, I pulled all my facts together, and I made it, and I'm very proud of it, and it's mine. You can't take that. You can't, it's like a blog post. You just can't pick that up and copy it. So, can you copy that and put it in your tree? No, you may not. You may not copy that and put it in your tree. Can you attach it to your tree? Yes, you may. So this is what happens. When you take a story or a photo in somebody else's tree and you merge it into your tree and you attach it, you're actually just attaching a copy. So if they remove it or whatever, it's gone, right? But as long as you just point and say, look, this person over here has this story and I've got it in my tree so I can look at it, awesome. That's fine. Can you copy it and publish it on your blog or on your book? No, you may not. Can you quote me with the proper attribution and then publish it? Yes, you may. Now, there are some exceptions to some of this stuff as we go along. But if you see something and somebody's done a really good job of summarizing or whatever, great. You know, quote the little bits and pieces that are important to you and put them in there and attribute them. Nobody's going to care, right? Well, some people will care, but, you know, they don't really have a leg to stand on. But you just can't pick up things and copy it like it's your own. You did not create it. Plus, if there's something really wrong or horrible in there, you could be held liable for it. They can come after you and sue you. You'd prefer for that not to happen. Be nice. Cite your sources. All right, what about photos? This is one of the biggest arguments we get on message boards all the time. And there are so many laws depending on when the photo was published and who took it, blah, 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 blah. It's really, really hard. And I am not an expert in these things, but let me just give you some basic pointers. This photo we believe to be my great-grandmother, Mary Elizabeth Gillespie. Notice I said believe. I do not know that without a doubt, but from the evidence on the back of the photo describing who she was and the time it was, we believe this to be Mary Elizabeth Gillespie from Rockbridge, Virginia. We have dated it sometime between 1866 and 1883. My cousin's husband is fairly well versed in dating photos and from the watermarks and whatnot. He's determined that this was probably taken between that time frame and that it was taken in Tennessee. It's a pretty old photo. It's so cool. I love this photo, but it's an old photo, right? I don't own the copyright to this photo because I didn't take it. The person who took the photo owns the copyright. However, given how old it is, it's probably in the public domain. So if you have the original and you want to, and it's that old and you want to publish it, that's fine. Now, when I publish my photos and I own the copyright or they're not copyrighted, I really don't care if this is me personally. I don't care if anybody uses them because I share my ancestors with a whole lot of people. I do not come from a long line of only children that goes back 20 generations. Mary Elizabeth had 6 children. There's all sorts of descendants all over the place. This picture really belongs to them as much as it does to me. So I'm happy enough for them to use it. Not everybody feels that way. And that's totally fine. So if somebody puts something up and you don't know how they feel about you using it, you cannot just copy it and attach it to your tree willy-nilly and go on your merry way. That's not very nice. You cannot do that. And it's probably because they've published it on their tree, it's then considered published like it would be in a book, and then you can't use it. So what if it's published in a book, say in 1970? Can I copy the picture from the book and use it? No, you may not without permission. The publisher holds the copyright. This is so hard, isn't it? Anything published, though, before 1923 is in the public domain and you can use it. Federal government photos that they publish, like in the Library of Congress and all those things, those are owned by the government and those are in the public domain and you can use them. If somebody puts something out there, like when I post on Find a Grave, I always try and put disclaimers under my tombstones photos saying, use. You don't have to attribute it to me. It's a tombstone photo. Why would I care? It's not some artistic thing. But that's just me. And I put a statement up there that says, use it however you like. I don't care. But if somebody doesn't put that up there, then they own the copyright and you cannot just use it. Now, if you do a search for something called Creative Commons and say Flickr, F-L-I-C-K-R, you will find a bunch of photos that are listed under Creative Commons. And what this is, these are people who publish photos and you can use them as long as you attribute the photo to them. And I've used these in my blogs when I'm looking for specific photos of things that I don't have. And as long as I attribute to them, I'm driving traffic back to them, I'm giving them credit, they've agreed that it's okay, everybody's happy with that. Things on Wikipedia are covered under Creative Commons. But again, it's tricky business. Usually on things like photos and long dissertations, go and ask the person. Tell them what it is you want to do and why. Most people in this world are very nice. Some people are a little finicky about how you use their stuff. You know, ask questions. And always cite your sources. Regardless of how you use something that you didn't come up with, tell people where it came from. You'd be amazed at how just giving people credit for stuff softens them, right? People just want credit for what they do. We all work really, really hard to build our trees, and most of us would like them to be accurate. And if we've done some bit of research that was a little bit tricky and difficult, or we put stuff together in a really good way, we'd like to get credit for that. That's a really, really good idea, right? What about historical documents? Ancestry has millions and millions of these censuses and other kinds of documents, right? So can you use them? And people will say, it's an 1860 U.S. federal census. Surely I can do what I want with it. It's a government document. It's owned by the government. I am a U.S. citizen. It's mine. Sort of. Sort of. It is. And if you go to NARA and get a copy, you can do whatever you want with it. With the 1940 census, you can go to, I think it's archives.com, which we own now, but and you can download those, and those are the federal copies of them, and you can do whatever you want with them. And on Ancestry, you can sort of do whatever you want with it. If it's on Ancestry.com or some other site, depending on the terms of service, but I know this to be true on Ancestry, then you can use it for personal use, but you can't republish, say, the entire county. So if I'm writing a little blog post, or I'm writing an article, or whatever I'm doing that's going to be published somewhere, and I want to take a page and say send it off to a client or put it in my blog post or post it, that's totally fine. Using it for personal use. Nobody's upset with that. Cite it, because that's really important, right? But you can do that. But I can't take the entire county of Rockbridge County, or let's see, this is Smith County, in 1860 and just publish all these up on my blog. That does not work. And when you cite things, there's something about citing things. You also tell people where they came from, and this is really important. Look here, 1860, there's a bunch of stuff. It's Philip Snavely's household. Great. And then it also says, I got it from Ancestry.com, and it tells you when I got it. And then it tells you they got it from NARA, and it tells you what publication it was part of. So that's really important because you're telling people where you got it from. But that's okay to use for personal use. So if there's documents that we've put up there, you may take a copy of them, and if you want to publish them on your blog or put them in your tree or put them anywhere else, Awesome. I just saw a question come through, and I'm only half looking. It says, what if an ancestor created a family tree book and copyrighted the book, but they have passed away? Can you use the book? The copyright is held by the family, and I just read this. The copyright is held by the family for 70 years after their death. Now, if it's your family, you can go and you can surely talk to somebody and get permission to use it, but it is the copyright lasts after your death. All right. So what does all this mean? If it's not yours, don't take it and use it without attribution. Cite your source. Bottom line, anything you take that you didn't create, cite your source. This tells people where you got it from. You're giving attribution. It's going to save you a lot of grief down the way. And I know you guys are posting questions, and I'll get back to them in a minute. If you aren't sure you can use it, do a little research or ask for permission. Again, Judy Russell is a great resource. She's got all sorts of blog posts on what you can and cannot use, and she's really good about answering questions. You know, and thinking about it from yourself. If it was your photo, story, or other creation, how would you want somebody else to use it? Would you just want them to take it willy-nilly and publish it? No. You wouldn't. You would want them to give you credit for what you've got, or what you created, and put it up there. And I really think that's what all this is about. If people would just give each other credit, life would be a lot easier. Now, let's say somebody has stolen some of your stuff. Now, a couple things you can do on Ancestry is you can report it to Member Services, and they will have them take it down, or request they take it down. It's really, I mean, it's very hard to take somebody to court over taking a blog post you have and publishing it. Now, if they're doing it on a regular basis, it would be a lot easier. But if you put it out there, you do have to assume that there may be times when people copy it. And as wrong as it is, I think the best thing we can do is to educate people. Cite your sources. Do the right thing yourself. The more people who do the right thing, the more people will start to do it themselves, and it will just be a better world, and we'll know where things come from. All right, now it just logged me out of the chat here, and I really, really would like to answer some of your questions, so hold on one second. Let me log back in and see if I can get some of these. All right, let's see. Edith has a question. It says, the photo in question regarding my grandmother was sent to another cousin, not the very distant relative who put it on Facebook. If it's on Facebook, you would have to go through Facebook and have them try and take it down. Lots of people put up lots of things that they should not all over the place. I agree. It's really a nasty thing, and people shouldn't do it. Let me talk a little bit about a couple things. One, when people put up things and say it's somebody that it's not. Yeah, that's a really bad thing, and you can ask them to take it down, but there's just not a lot you can do about it. I know this is not shocking to anybody. There's a lot of stuff on the internet that's just wrong, right? We all know that just because it's published on the internet doesn't make it right. You can leave comments, you can ask them to take it down, you can do whatever, but you can't make people do the right thing. If only we could, the world would be a lot nicer place. It's just not possible. Obituaries. There's a whole lot of stuff going on the message board about obituaries right now and privacy and all that kind of stuff. Obituary is published out there in public. A lot of newspapers are online. That stuff is out there. However, the publisher holds the copyright on that. So you cannot just copy it, and you can't just transcribe it and then publish it as your own or put it in your own tree. You can't take a image of it or scan in the obituary from the newspaper and put it in your personal collection. But be very careful. I mean, if you wrote the obituary and you put it up there, you can put it in your tree, or somebody in your family did. And this applies to all obituaries from 1963 to the present. They are still under copyright. Before then, not so much. And again, the laws vary and there's all sorts of weirdnesses that go on. But don't assume just because it's about your family member that you can do whatever with an obituary. And also people have said, well, you're violating people's privacy because you've got living people in the obituary. It was published in the newspaper. It was published online in the newspaper site. There's not much you can do about that if somebody puts it up there. Somebody said, can you copy the obituary from the newspaper and then source where it came from? I believe that falls under fair use, yes. As long as, and I have lots of those in my tree, just little snippets. Also, you can get them from online, the images from online, and do the same thing. I know people get very frustrated. I keep seeing this. I know people get very, very frustrated because they contact people and ask them to take down things and correct info. You cannot control what other people do. You can ask nicely. You can leave a comment on their tree, and that's about the best you can do. You can't make everybody behave. You can't make everybody accept facts. If that were the case, it would be a very different world. I can guarantee it. Bottom line, when you take information and images from other sites, cite your sources. Cover yourself. And think about who owns that and if you should be putting it in there. This is what's really important. But you can't control what everybody else does. You can only control what you do, and you need to cover yourself. So, bottom line, when you're taking information, and this is just good sense so you know where stuff came from. When you take information, facts, whatever it is, pieces of stories, make sure you attribute it appropriately and give people credit for what they do. You will have yourself covered. And everything that will, and you'll just be in better shape. Let's see, I just saw something that said, I scanned an obit clipping found in a family member's diary that was published in 1922 and attached it to my tree. No idea what paper it is. No, you do not need to unattach that. I believe everything before then was is free from copyright, and I think you're okay there. I don't think you're in any kind of problem. Let's see. Yeah, I know, and I keep seeing, when people take the photos and attach them to the wrong people. It is nerve-wracking. I just tend not to look at junk trees. If people want to live in their own fantasy world, who am I to take it away from them? I can only publish what is correct and hope people follow that. All right. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Again, remember, be nice, cite your sources, give people credit, and you'll be in a lot better shape. And ask. Just ask. You'd be surprised. If you go to somebody and ask a question, can I use this? People are always a lot nicer than if you just take it. Alrighty. We will talk to you later. We'll have a new set of events posted very soon. It was great talking to you guys. We'll see you at the next presentation. Oh, wait. One more thing. Where you can get a copy of this if you so desire. And I'll post this up in the chat window as well. I usually post these on my blog, findingforgottenstories.com/resources/how-to videos. It's already up there if you want to go get it. So, as always, it has been a pleasure talking to you guys. Bye.